Now, in this video, we will dive into a world where entire islands appeared on maps for centuries, only to vanish into thin air, forcing us to ask, what if the very ground you stand on, or the maps you trust, are all just a beautiful, elaborate lie? Okay, so imagine this. You pick up a map, a really old one, say from the 1500s. You look at it, and there it is. A giant island, clearly marked, maybe even with mountains and rivers drawn on it. Now you'd think, well, that island must be real, right? It's on a map. But what if I told you that island and hundreds of others like it never existed? Not even a tiny rock. Nothing. Just empty ocean. This isn't some fairy tale. This is a bizarre, astonishing, and utterly true part of our history, the phenomenon of phantom islands. These were landmasses that appeared on maps for hundreds of years, sometimes even for centuries, only to be discovered later, after countless wasted journeys, that they were nothing more than figments of imagination, terrible mistakes, or outright hoaxes. Think about that for a moment. People built entire worldviews, planned epic voyages, and even risked their very existence, all based on places that simply weren't there. So, how did this happen? How do you put an entire island, sometimes a very large one, on a map, and then just remove it? It's not like someone just forgot to draw a tree. This is an entire landmass. The reasons are as strange as the islands themselves. Sometimes it was simple errors. A tired sailor, after weeks at sea, might spot a cloud formation on the horizon and swear it was land. Or maybe a distant iceberg looked like solid ground in the fog. Or perhaps calculations for longitude were wildly off, causing an island to be mapped in the wrong place, leading to others searching for it where it wasn't. But it gets weirder. Sometimes, these phantom islands were pure invention. Explorers, eager for fame and funding, might simply claim to have discovered new land, even if they hadn't. Who was going to check? The ocean was vast and mysterious. Or maybe someone heard an old myth, a whispered tale of a magical island, and decided to put it on their map as if it were fact. Once a powerful mapmaker included it, everyone else just copied it. Imagine the pressure. If the most famous mapmaker in the world shows an island, then it must be real, right? So cartographers, who were essentially the scientists of their time, kept adding these ghostly lands, passing on the same errors and fabrications, generation after generation. It created a kind of map-based group delusion that lasted for literal centuries. Let's talk about some of the most famous or infamous phantom islands. First up, Friesland. This wasn't just a tiny speck. Friesland was a major landmass, sometimes shown as big as Ireland or Great Britain, appearing prominently on maps from the late 1500s all the way into the late 1700s. It was supposedly located south of Iceland. The story behind it is wild. In the late 1300s, two Venetian navigators, the Zeno brothers, claimed their ship got caught in a storm and they ended up shipwrecked on an island. They were rescued by a prince, who then sent them on voyages to explore new lands. And one of those lands, they said, was Friesland. They even drew a map. Now, historians today largely agree the Zeno brothers' story was a complete fabrication, probably invented by their descendant who published their letters centuries later. But the damage was done. Because their story was published and the map was drawn, some of the most respected mapmakers of the age, people like Gerardus Mercator, the guy who invented the Mercator projection we still use today, they put Friesland on their world maps. Mercator, a man who literally defined how we see the world, believed it was real. Think about the implications of that. For over 200 years, brave sailors, venturing into the terrifying, unknown North Atlantic, were looking for this huge island that wasn't there. Imagine the frustration. Imagine the confusion. They would sail past the empty ocean, maybe see a mirage or an ice formation, and convince themselves they were close, just a little further. Ship after ship would return, having found nothing, but no one dared challenge the established maps. It took centuries of failed expeditions and better surveying techniques before cartographers finally, reluctantly, erased Friesland from the map. It's like a giant collective sigh of embarrassment from the entire world. But Friesland isn't alone. Oh no, there's Hy-Brasil. This one is even more mystical. Hy-Brasil was a mythical island off the coast of Ireland, often shrouded in mist. The legend said it only appeared once every 7 years. But somehow, this piece of folklore, this whisper from ancient tales, made its way onto actual, practical navigation charts. From at least the 14th century, and famously appearing on maps in the 16th and 17th centuries, sailors would seriously search for it. Some even claim to have landed on it. They would describe its lush green hills, its strange animals, and its mystical inhabitants. Picture a grizzled old sailor, back from a long voyage, swearing he saw this magical island, only for it to disappear the next time he went looking. Was it just a trick of the light? A shared hallucination born of loneliness at sea? Or was it something else, something truly beyond our understanding, a place that slips between dimensions, occasionally brushing against our reality? The fact that it stayed on maps for centuries, despite its elusive nature, tells you just how deeply humans want to believe in the unknown, in hidden corners of the world. And then we come to a modern phantom island. Yes, even in the age of satellites and GPS, phantom islands still surprise us. Take Sandy Island. For years, it was prominently displayed on maps, even on Google Earth, as a large landmass in the Coral Sea, between Australia and New Caledonia. It was on nautical charts used by ships. Scientists on a research vessel in 2012 sailed to its exact location, expecting to find land. What did they find? Nothing, just deep, deep ocean. No island. Not even a tiny reef. It was just gone. It was like the map had played a trick on them. How did this happen in the 21st century? Was it a simple data entry error that got copied over and over again? Was it a ship reporting a false sighting that became gospel? The sheer absurdity of it still baffles experts. It lasted for years on digital maps before someone actually bothered to go check it out. It forces you to wonder. What else is on our maps today that isn't really there? What else do we collectively believe to be true that, if someone were to physically go and check, would simply vanish into thin air? The story of Phantom Islands isn't just about old maps and silly mistakes. It's about the very nature of human knowledge. It's about how easily we can be convinced, how strongly we cling to beliefs, and how hard it is to let go of an idea once it's taken root, even when faced with overwhelming evidence that it's simply not true. Think about it. Explorers were literally risking their lives, sailing into storms, running out of supplies, and facing unknown dangers, all for a destination that was nothing but a dream. Naval budgets were spent, ships were lost, and crews suffered, all because of an illusion on a piece of paper. The sheer scale of human effort wasted on these non-existent places is mind-boggling, and the process of removing them was just as strange. Imagine being a cartographer in the 18th or 19th century. You've spent your whole life studying maps, copying them, refining them. And then suddenly, you have to admit that a major feature, something your ancestors believed in for centuries, was just a lie. It's like discovering that a cherished family photo shows a ghost you never knew existed. It wasn't a sudden clean sweep. These islands faded slowly, sometimes appearing as faint outlines, then as doubtful land, before finally disappearing completely. It was a slow, painful process of challenging established truths, of saying, actually, the world isn't quite what we thought it was. What does this tell us about our own reality today? If maps, which are supposed to be objective representations of the physical world, can be filled with such profound, long-lasting illusions, what else are we believing that isn't true? What phantom islands exist in our understanding of history, of science, of society, that we simply haven't sailed close enough to disprove yet? Are there entire concepts, entire ways of thinking that are simply shared mirages, passed down through generations, still influencing our decisions and perceptions today? The idea of phantom islands touches on a fundamental human impulse: the need to fill the blank spaces. Early maps were full of unknown territory, marked with "here be dragons" or simply left empty. The human mind hates empty spaces. We want to categorize, to name, to draw boundaries. So we filled those voids, sometimes with real discoveries, and sometimes with things that were merely wished into existence. It's a reminder that even the most rigorous systems, like cartography, are still products of human minds, with all their hopes, fears, mistakes, and desire for order. So, the next time you look at a map, any map, think about the ghost islands. Think about the brave, or perhaps foolish, souls who charted these non-existent lands. Think about the centuries of collective belief in something that was never there. And then ask yourself, what other phantom islands are we all sailing towards right now? What fundamental truths do we hold dear that, one day, might just disappear into the vast, perplexing ocean of the unknown? The world, it turns out, is far stranger and more flexible than any map could ever truly show. What's the most mind-blowing fact you've ever heard that sounds too weird to be true? Share it below. And for more incredible stories that will make you question everything, follow for more.